Man, you look good, dude.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, man. I'm blessed, very blessed these days.
Yeah, yeah. So, what you been up to, man? You doing good? How's your
I'm
leg?
doing well, man. The leg is better. Thank you for those watching. I've got prosthetic leg, uh, $30,000 piece of equipment.
Yeah,
Doesn't always work great. You know what I mean? It's like you're fitting man and machine together, and it just doesn't always work right. And I've had multiple surgeries over the last few years on both my amputated leg and my good leg, and we've had some issues with prosthetic fitting, and it's just a grind. People see the amputees on TV running and winning gold medals in the Paralympics, and it looks great and all, but they don't show you behind the scenes, and that's can be a very frustrating process to go through the fitting and the insurance and all that stuff, and then you get there and you do all this work and spend all these hours with your practitioner, and it just doesn't fit right. And so I'm so blessed. The last 3 weeks, I've been feeling very comfortable in my leg, and so it's things have improved.
good, good. I know we kind of just jumped in and started talking, but I want to welcome our guest to the show. This is Start the Conversation. I am your host, Dalton, with Resolutions Healthcare. Hidden Oaks is our inpatient facility out in Chatfield, Texas, over by Corsicana. So we are a drug addiction and mental health treatment facility. And we've been in the business all together. Our leadership team has over a century of experience if you combine us all. Um, Vinny, our CEO, he's the trauma guru. He's been in this field for decades himself. So it's nice to be on his team. And um,
Yeah,
I
I want
met
to give a plug to
John
Vinny. I
years
want to give I
ago.
want to give a plug to Vinny. I went through a treatment center that you were a part of with Vinny back in probably 2016, 2015, something like that in Texas there. And amazing experience working with you and Vinny. If anybody out there is looking for good help, I trust Dalton and Vinny with my kids if they needed support.
Appreciate it. Well, hopefully they don't, but appreciate it. So you are one of the you're right up there ranked with this is gonna sound bad, but the Dos Equis most interesting man in the world commercials. Um I would put you as one of the most interesting men in the world because um your background, man, you have we know the injury and we'll talk a little bit about that, but I mean, Hollywood and acting and recovery and motivation. I mean, you're everywhere. So, I'm definitely gonna put your info in the comments and everything so people can know where to follow you and where to see all your story and things like that at, because it is really an inspiration, man. Really cool stuff you're doing.
Thank you so much, man. It's an honor to be here with you.
Right on. So we're just gonna jump right into it. And then we'll kind of zoom out and talk about some things. But I want to jump into there was a point where things changed for you, talking drugs, alcohol, the recovery realm. There was a point where things changed for you. What was that moment?
Man, so that moment for me, because I was in and out of substance use and severe mental illness off and on for about 20 years, really. And the moment it changed for me was over 5 years ago when I had my kids taken away from me because of my divorce and my substance use and all my background and my history. Went through divorce. The court took my kids away. I had, supervised visits, 4 hours a week. We had this whole court setup thing, and I had to do drug testing almost weekly for 3 years. Breathalyze into a breathalyzer with a camera before I could see my kids. I had to do this breathalyzer into a camera. I would send it to my ex-wife to show that I didn't have any alcohol in my system prior to going to being with my children for 4 hours a week. And I
Yeah.
finally worked up to getting my kids for 24 hours. And so during one of those 24-hour stints, I was drinking, and my oldest son was 12 at the time, and he smelled the alcohol on my breath. He did what he was told to do by his mother, which was the right thing to do, and that was to call me out on it. And he came up to me and he said, Dad, Mom's coming to pick us up. And he and his two siblings. I said, why, buddy? And he said, because I smell alcohol in your breath.
Mm,
And I was just like, oh, man. And so for the first time in my life, this was the first time I had relapsed like this where my ex-wife wasn't there to buffer the kids and to protect the kids from me. And so it was just me completely exposed to my children in all my glory in my,
yeah.
relapse. And it was like an out of body experience when I see my 12-year-old looking back at me through the eyes that I, gave him, looking back at me, and I saw what a loser I was. And I said, man, I'm such
Mm,
a loser that my child has to protect his siblings from me and call his mom to come pick them up. And it just broke my heart. It broke my heart of just like, I can't keep doing this. And I wanted to lie. My initial I'm an alcoholic and drug addict at my core, when I'm not working a program and not connected with God and community. And so I wanted to lie in that moment. I wanted to go, what are you talking about? No, no, no. And I
right.
had a moment where it's like I always knew what the right path has been in my life, and usually I chose the wrong one. And so I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna own up to this and be like, okay, you're right. Go and get your mom to pick you up. So that was a moment when things changed. And then to take it a step further, I reached out for help again, and that's the hardest thing. And I had gotten a couple of years of sobriety here and there, and I shared my story around the country at colleges, universities. I had hosted a podcast previously on addiction and had high profile people in recovery on my show. Three of the members of the band Korn and a guy from Three Doors Down and Lindsay Lohan's dad. And I'd done great work in the recovery field, and I had relapsed and gone through a divorce, and here I am relapsing again. But I had to reach out for help again. And it's just I hate it. I hate when I have to like, I hated those times when I've had to like just force myself to say, I need help again. And so I did.
Yeah.
And I reached out and I called. I said, who's the best person in my network that I could call? And I called, he lives here about 15 minutes from me. He's a member of SEAL Team 6. All right.
Okay.
So a Navy SEAL of 20 years, a member of SEAL Team 6. Chris Pratt played him in the film Zero Dark 30. So the movie
Okay.
on taking down Osama bin Laden, this guy, Chris Pratt, plays him in the film.
Yeah.
And so I called him over to my place and I said, I'm not doing too well. And he's like, yeah, you look terrible. Like, you look like you're about to check out of this life. And I said, I
Mm,
kind of want to, like, I don't know if I want to be here anymore. And he just made it so easy. Here's a guy been trained for, Navy SEAL for 20 years. And he's sitting there in my living room and he just goes, man, everybody loves a comeback story. And he was just so nonchalant, just so calm, and he saw how bad I was and how checked out I was. And he just goes, everybody loves a comeback story. And I said, man, I'll have another one in me. I came back from my car accident where I lost my leg. I found my brother dead from an overdose. I came back from that. And now I've lost my kids and my house, my wife and my job. And he said, everybody loves a comeback story. So here we are 5 years later. I'm glad I took his advice of getting back up on the horse and trying again, because here we are today.
yeah. Amen. Amen. Um, so I got pretty you had highs and lows. You've had short stints of sobriety, long stints of sobriety. Um, so it got pretty bad before this last go round, and man, that gut punch from your older son, I could see how that could be the turning point uh, for a lot of people. Um, a lot of times we don't see the pain that we're really causing other people because, like you had your ex who would be the buffer, and we think, oh, it's just me. I'm just doing this. Yeah, I might hurt myself, or I might go to jail, or I might break my neck or lose my leg in a car accident, but we're always damaging other people and hurting those around us. And, you know, for me, it was the night I got in my accident was the night before my sister's wedding. So I was supposed to be in her wedding, and I was laid up in Parkland ICU with a broke neck, broke leg, dislocated hip, brain injury, and that was the turning point for me. That was the bad moment where I was like, okay, this is affecting more people than just me. And when I really
Mm-hmm.
saw it affecting my family and loved ones, I was like, yeah, something's got to change.
Mm-hmm.
So it looks different for all of us. There's a cliche, I know you've heard it, that you have to hit rock bottom before you can get better. I don't believe that. I don't think it has to get that bad before you reach out for help, but that's just how a lot of us are, is we keep pushing it off. And the thing about rock bottom is it can always get deeper until we're dead. So you got to be careful of that. Reach out for help the moment you see that your life is not in your control no more. Reach out for help. But let's get back to your story. You're the one being interviewed today. What did addiction take from you, John?
Mm. Addiction took full potential in previous lives. Now I'm maximizing it better, but it had taken potential. It took my sanity, took my my marriage, and probably most profoundly, other than my kids, which I've gotten back now, which is I'm so grateful. I have a great relationship with all three of my kids, and I see them on a regular basis, and have regular visiting, or not visiting hours, but regular time with my kids like a normal co-parenting family would have. So I'm really really blessed that I've been able to earn that back, and God's given me that gift of being with my
Yeah.
children. But other than that, the biggest thing that addiction's taken from me is my brother. So my brother was my best friend, my only sibling. I'm living in LA, and I'm doing acting and stunt work. I'm using my prosthetic leg. So I was the first, I played the first amputee soldier on the first TV show about the war in Iraq. So the war in Iraq started in '04. They did a TV show starting in '05 called Over There. It just lasted one season on FX. It was 13 episodes. My cousin got cast as the lead actor in it. And just so happens they wrote in the script he was going to lose his right leg below the knee at this dramatic scene at the end of the first episode and a roadside bomb in Iraq. Well, long story short, I get hired on as the technical consultant. So I was the amputee consultant for the TV show, and we used my prosthetic. We would slide my leg into shots, and we would use my stump to get blown up and have look like it was blown up. And so it was a really cool gig. People Magazine came out, and Access Hollywood, and all these national press came out. Two cousins working together on the first show about the war in Iraq, playing the first soldier with amputation. It was an amazing experience. But so I'm out there doing the Hollywood thing. I had worked where I was backstage at the ESPYs with The Rock. I've been at the Playboy Mansion with Adam Sandler. I've been licked in a cab by Andy Dick. I've been bowling at Phil Jackson was a 10-time NBA championship coach for the Bulls for Michael Jordan, and the Lakers with Kobe Bryant, coached the best in the world. And I'm bowling at
Yeah.
Phil Jackson's house, like just living the life. And all along, Bo, behind the scenes had alcohol and prescription pills that I was abusing on a regular basis. And then I got a call that my brother didn't show up for work one day, and I go over to his house in Beverly Hills, and man, it was that's the biggest thing addiction took from me is my brother. And unfortunately, I got sober for a few years and relapsed. Did cocaine one time after being sober for a year and a half, and he had been dead for 3 days in his bedroom alone and isolated in the hills in Beverly Hills, where you think you got it all together. And so I
Right.
like to say that my brother didn't die from addiction. He didn't die from his bipolar stuff. What he died from was silence. And so if there's somebody out there, if there's one person out there listening today that's sitting in silence, the silence can kill you. It may not physically kill you, but it can mentally, emotionally, and spiritually kill you. And that's where, like I said a little bit ago, where I had to keep asking for help, even though I would relapse and I'd have to start all over. It's like I got to keep asking for help and keep from being silent, because for me, silence for my brother was death, and it is for me as well if I stay silent. Um,
Yeah.
the light can't shine in the darkness. So
Amen. I asked this question in one of my groups yesterday or the day before, and some clients had a hard time answering it, but I want to see what your answer would be to it. What lies were you believing during the addiction, or what lies would you tell yourself? One of my clients said, "Well, I wasn't really lying to myself because I knew what it was. I knew what was going to happen. I knew exactly what I was doing." Um, but would you answer that any differently?
man, I was in such denial, like such denial. I lied. I had no idea that I had a problem. So back in 2008, before my brother died, my sister-in-law was kind of like, hey, there's this group called Celebrate Recovery. I found a church called Celebrate Recovery where near you in Los Angeles. Maybe you might want to think about going there. For those of you that don't know, Celebrate Recovery is a Christ-centered 12-step group, which I go to on a regular basis here in Nashville, which has saved my life. I still do some AA meetings and online AA meetings, but for me, Celebrate Recovery has been a godsend for me. But back in 2008, she was like, hey, maybe I want to try the Celebrate Recovery. And I was like, why? Why would I go there? Like,
Yeah.
I had no idea that I had a problem. And then, and it progressed. I moved here to Nashville 16, 17 years ago, and I got in with Dave Ramsey. I moved from LA, got after my brother died. I found that, overdose death, got out of LA, moved here to Nashville, and I'm working for Dave Ramsey. And I'm literally, abusing pills and drinking on the job while calling churches on behalf of Dave Ramsey, and even then I was like, I don't have a problem. And that set me on the road to treatment. That's when I started going to treatment. But I mean, I was just lying to myself day after day after day that it's not that bad. I still had resources, I still had finances, I still had, family, I had car, I hadn't had enough consequences. And
Yeah.
so I didn't think I had a problem. How hard headed I am, man. As everything else is
Yeah.
falling apart, all the relationships, I didn't notice that like all my friends started to leave. The next thing you know, it's like, where was everybody that used to be here? It's like
Right.
family members quit following up, and you know,
Yeah. Everybody just kind of
slowly
disappears.
goes away. You don't realize it. And all of a sudden you wake up one day and you're like, wait, I'm alone. Like, like, where is everybody? It's like, nobody wants to be around you,
That's
man.
back to that isolation and disconnecting from people that you were talking about with your brother, unfortunately. Um, one of our one of our therapists, our clinical director actually, she likes to say that connection is the opposite of addiction. Um, because if you ask a group of addicts or alcoholics, what's your main trigger, what's the one thing you got to stay away from? 2 out of 10 people, 2 out of 5 people are gonna say isolation. Because it's so damaging, man. So
And here's the
damaging.
thing for the audience is it's not about physical isolation. You may have a job, you may be working, you may have great family around you, you got kids, or you got, social group, but it's the internal isolation. For me, it was the isolation from spiritual isolation.
Amen.
The turning point for me is like, I got to get spiritually connected, and whatever, and that means different things for different people. If it's nature, if it's meditation, but for me, it was a isolation of the heart and of the spirit.
Mm. Okay, so you started going to treatment. Um, you were working for Dave Ramsey at the time. Real started to finally admit that you might have a problem with this. Started going to treatment. Um, what was your? I don't know if you can nail it on a certain time after treatment, or maybe just maybe this most recent time, 5 years ago. What was You answered how you want to, but what was the first 30 days of recovery like?
Hmm. So I was in 5 treatment centers in 7 years, where I met you at one of them. Um, the first couple of times in treatment, it was the first 30 days, treatment's hard, man. It's not easy. And the first couple of times I was lying even then, just lying to myself. I would go through the motions. I'd tell people what they want to hear, because that's what I did my entire life. Is I just told people what they wanted to hear. So I looked good on the surface. But when I finally started going through multiple treatment centers, and I was at parties at the Playboy Mansion, and I ended up in a trailer on the banks of the Cumberland River here in Nashville with a roommate named Beaver. And those 30 days out of treatment, that time was severely humbling and sad. I mean, just, and even more isolating than ever before, because not only am I away from my family and my job and everything that I felt safe around, I'm in this new environment. I'm in a trailer with a guy named Beaver, and uh, you know, it's like And then you want to take my pacifier away. I describe it as like a baby has a pacifier, and
Yeah.
that's how you keep them calm. It's a pacifier, the blanket. And then you want to take the alcohol away, and I got to deal with me. And it was sad to see that where my life had gone, and it was isolating. And then so that was that moment. And then when I'm after my divorce, when I had my big last relapse, when my kid discovered it, that was the most lonely I'd ever been, for sure. And so the first 30 days for me were very, very, very lonely. And if anything, the darkest, coming out of treatment. And then all of a sudden I'm by myself in an apartment, and um, almost unbearable, almost unbearable. But what got me through it is going to support groups, going to support group meetings, calling my friend Navy SEAL over to my house, getting back to my sponsor, telling my sponsor where I'm at. So um, it was sad and depressing and isolating, but at the same time, to deal with all those feelings, I reached out, I connected. It was about connection that got me through it.
So it was mentally and emotionally harder than you expected it to be.
Yes, yes. Treatment gives you tools. Here's what I thought when I went to treatment, they were going to fix me. It's kind of like you take your car to the mechanic, they fix the car, you get the car, it's all of a sudden it's running better. And that's what I thought going into treatment the first several times was like, oh, I'm going to get fixed. I'm just going to come out of there, I'm going to be okay. It's like, no, they just give you the tools, but I have to use the tools, and I have to do the work, and I have to make the phone calls, and I have to go to the meetings, and I have to go to therapy, and I have to write my feelings down, and I have to do the steps, and I've got to work through the steps. Like, it's like, I just thought I was just going to pay some money, learn some, adventure therapy, go zip lining like we did in Dallas, or, equine therapy like I did in Tucson. And I just thought those things would just all of a sudden fix me. But it was like, I had to keep doing the work when I got out of the treatment. And that was a harder part, is like putting it into action when nobody
Yeah.
was making me do it,
Yeah. Yeah. You gotta dig deep and do it at home when there isn't a therapist in group calling on you. Say, hey, answer this question.
Yeah.
Good. Thinking about right now in 2026, are there times when you think about going back to that old way of life?
Dude. So the last 2 years of everything I've been through, the last 2 years have been extremely challenging in that I almost had my leg re-amputated. I got an ingrown hair on my stump, basically my residual limb. I got an ingrown hair on it. And last Easter 2 years ago, I was in the hospital 7 minutes from my house here, awaiting a possible amputation above my knee. The infection had gotten so big and so bad, it got right on the edge of the bone, and they said we may be amputating your knee. And I just buried my mom a few weeks before. So I flew to
Mm,
Texas to bury my mother. I already buried my brother, and it's just me and my dad now. And my mom is my biggest supporter my entire life. And I'm literally on crutches because I couldn't wear a prosthetic leg because my leg was so infected. I'm on crutches putting my mom's urn into the ground. I come home, and Easter Sunday, I'm completely alone because everybody's with their families. Everybody's with church. And my surgery was supposed to be at 10:30 in the morning on Sunday. And my kids were out of town with their mom, so I had nobody. Luckily, they pushed and I'm just sobbing. I'm crying. I'm just like, I can't do this, God, I can't do this. And luckily, they pushed my surgery back to like 2 o'clock. And so I called my sponsor and I said, man, can you be here? Can you and your wife please be here when I go to surgery? I said, I'm completely alone. I can't do this on my own. He said, absolutely. So I went through the surgery. They saved my leg, thankfully. In the next 48 hours, I had 17 visitors, all from my support group in my church, Celebrate Recovery and AA. And over the next week, I had 48 visitors come personally see me in my room because I said, I'm not well. I can't get through this on my own. And it's just like everybody just, so I was in a wheelchair, crutches for 6 months. I'm doing IV in my arm here in my house every 8 hours. Going to wound care appointments. They're taking the scalpel and taking the scabs off the wound, a couple times a week. I mean, it was just gnarly stuff. Brought up all my PTSD, and I mean, I wanted to relapse, man. I wanted to go back out, but I surrounded myself. I had people bringing me meals on purpose. I said, I need people at my house every
yeah.
couple of days. I need somebody coming by. So luckily, I had enough support around me to get me through that. So got through that, and then I've had 2 ankle surgeries in the last 7 months. I flew to Texas for my foot surgeon. As a result of my car wreck, I ended up getting screws put in my ankle. So over the last 2 years, I've had 5 procedures on my lower limb, and I've been in crutches, wheelchair, or a scooter for 10 of the last 24 months. And there have been days when I didn't think I didn't want to go any further, and couldn't go any further, and couldn't go anymore. But I've stayed connected and stayed involved in my support groups and made extra phone calls. I'm like, all right, I went back to therapy. I wasn't going to therapy anymore. Now I was going back to therapy. Up to my antidepressants. I went way down on my antidepressants since I've gotten sober. But I was like, hey, I'm going to need to up my antidepressants just for this period of time. Seeing that I had tools in my toolbox, and what do I need to pull in? It's almost like if a storm's coming, you put up stuff to protect your house from the storm. And so I saw the
Yeah,
storm
get
coming
ready.
before I got here, and I was able to kind of better fortify myself, my spirit, and my soul to get through it. So
Man,
yeah, it's
I love that. That is a great uh man, that's just it's a great roadmap for people who are living in recovery, maybe just getting out of rehab. The trials are gonna come, but you have this toolbox, you have it for a purpose. Don't just leave it in the closet. When you see a hard time coming, pull that toolbox out, grab what you need
yeah.
to secure yourself.
Yeah, if somebody out there is going through a marriage issue or something, a job change, even just a job change, or even like if I would just go travel, going out of town and getting out of my routine, it's like, hey, I'm going to go on a trip. I need to make sure I have a meeting set up. I need to know where the meetings are when I go on that trip. So it's like as I've started to learn to see potential risk ahead of time now and do some risk assessment. And go, okay, this is so if somebody out there's going through a marriage issue, build up your support now. Don't wait till you're getting into really tough arguments late at night. Go to an extra meeting, make extra phone calls, go to your
Yeah.
therapist, get in marriage counseling. You can do things before you drink. There are tools you have to do before you go back to drinking or using. And so yeah.
Amen. What do you think people struggling right now misunderstand about sobriety?
People struggling right now misunderstand. um, I would say that the beha- the addiction's not the problem. Like if you're drinking or using, or maybe it's shopping. Maybe your deal is overeating. Whatever your vice is, that's not the problem. That's the solution,
Yeah.
right? You hear this all the time, and I didn't grasp it for the longest time, but the thing that I'm using to pacify my feelings and my internal angst is the solution. And so we're asking you to take the solution away. We're asking you to give the alcohol up, or give the food up, or give the pornography up, whatever it is. And so the alcohol or the addiction is not the problem; it's the solution. The problem is you. The problem is how you interpret life and how you are handling the things in your life or the trauma in your life. Um, and there are tools to get through that. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, the addiction is not the alcohol, the drugs. It isn't the problem, it's a solution. It's an unhealthy ground that we have to self-medicate whatever the issue is, trauma or, death of a loved one, loss of a family member, getting a divorce, anything, losing a job can be, trauma is different compared to different people, somebody who grew up in a rough part of the city, you know, maybe seeing a street fight or a shooting might not be traumatic to them, but somebody from the sticks who've never been around that, it's going to hit them like a ton of bricks. So what's traumatic to one person may not be traumatic to the next person. So, but that's what we're trying to cover up by using substances or, um, shopping, pornography, whatever it is, we're feeling ourselves. What habits you talked about CR, AA, therapy, what habits changed your life the most? What has been the most important to get John Mabry to where he is today?
It would be prayer, prayer, and continuing to build a relationship with the God of my understanding, which is God of the universe, and that's through Jesus Christ. That would be by far number one. Number two is exercise. For me, well, man, if you see, I know you've seen it. For those of you who haven't seen my story, if you go to my socials, you'll see how overweight I got in my last big relapse. I was miserable. I was like 55 pounds overweight, and the pictures I have, I was just a whole different person. So getting back into the gym and working out has been huge mental and physical and spiritual practice and release for me. So Jesus Christ and prayer, followed by working out.
Yeah. Mind, body, spirit.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
What does your daily routine look like these days?
So today, man, it's cool. Before I get out of bed, I put on my spiritual prosthesis. I love using this term. So I have I kick my leg off while I'm on the couch here. It's just more comfortable. But before I put on my physical prosthesis to get out of bed and to go into my day, I'm in prayer. So before I get out of bed, I'm like, Lord, please help me get through this day. And I'm praying for other people that are on my prayer list, looking to help others, not just pray for myself, pray for my children, right? And then I put on my spiritual prosthesis, because if I just get out of bed and I just go into the world and go do my thing, I'm going to limp. I'm going to limp around. I could hop for so far, or I can crawl so far throughout my day. But without my physical prosthesis on, I can only do so much. So I put my spiritual prosthesis on, and that just gets my day started. I also do a daily devotional every day with a group of like 50 other guys in my church. We have a Bible app, and go through the Bible in a year. So, and sometimes I get into it. Sometimes I just listen to it, and I'm on my way. But every day I'm doing something spiritual at the first of my day to get me started. I try to get a workout in every day, and I try to serve others. And I do that in a number of ways, through coaching, through podcast interviews like this, through motivational speaking. And I've got 3 people just today to hit me up on the socials going, hey man, I lost a brother. I saw one of your podcast interviews. I lost a brother. Can we talk? And just something about today. There's something in the air today that's like people are coming out of the woodwork and asking for more support. So those are the kind of things that keep me going today. Is being
Man,
a
that's
service.
good. Well, I know me and you, we had a struggle getting this wrapped up. We've had to reschedule twice. Once you had something come up with a buddy, and then I had power go out on us up here last week. So you said the enemy was trying to block us from getting this out, and I fully believe that, man.
Yep. And yes, Satan will try to take you down. He'll put roadblocks up on purpose, and a lot of people just give up and they're like, we're not going to do it. But man, one person hears the message today to keep them from drinking just today. This whole thing is worth it. And yes, God's overseeing
Yes,
this
sir.
if we allow him.
Yes, sir. If someone says, I can't quit, what would you tell that person?
I'd almost be like, you're right. You can't. Like if somebody can't quit their addiction,
Yeah.
is that what you're saying? Yeah, I'd be like,
Yeah.
you can't. But God can.
Amen.
You know what? You can't. You got to ask for a power greater than yourself to help you. Because you can't. You've tried it on your own. You keep going back and back. You try and you try and you try and the problem is you, and the problem is you're trying to do it by yourself. But God can do it.
Yeah. This might get me in trouble, but we were in group yesterday. We were doing the wilderness group, and um we I split my group up into 2 separate teams. I had a more veteran group of clients who's been with us for a while, and then the other team was the rookie group of clients who have only been here a couple of weeks. And I split them up into 2 teams. All right, y'all go make a shelter, and we're going to see who does it better. I said, think about all the survival shows you've watched, all the YouTube, go make a survival shelter. And then after that, we're processing, what kind of shelter do you need in recovery? Who do you need to shield yourself from, this and that? Um, and I was at the end of it, somebody said I need to shield myself from me. And I was like, there you go, guys. If we can all understand that we suck, we can be a whole lot better. I said, I am no good at being the captain of my ship. I'm going to run it into the islands. I'm going to run into the lighthouse. I'm going to run into the reefs. But if I just let let somebody else, a power greater than myself, be the commander of the ship, oh, it takes that anxiety off me. It takes that worry off of me, and things just work out better. Do you agree?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Dude, that brings up an amazing story I have from working with you. I think it was you that was out there. We were doing some of the wilderness kind of therapy at the treatment center that I met you at. So out by the treehouse, there was the log that crossed the creek. And I have a picture. I don't know if you remember, you took a picture. I actually have it. Is I'm walking across the river. So I have a prosthetic leg. I'm the only guy in the group with the, one leg. And I'm walking across the log and I have this big stick that's holding me up. And I drop the stick and I end up taking a few steps. I was like, I got this. And I took a few steps and I fell into the water. And I'm just drained. I got mud on me. I was like, crap. I get water in my side of my prosthetic leg. I'm like, ah. And in processing afterwards, I think it was you, said, what can you learn from this experience? And I remember, man, I remember going, don't let go of a tool if it's working for you. I was using this stick to get across the log, and I let go of the tool, and I said, I got this. And I don't. It's like, God was there to help hold me up. And I had a spiritual tool there holding me up. And when I let go of it, I was like, I got this on my own. And I fell and just completely got all wet and nasty. So I remember that experience from being out there with you is if a tool's working for you, man, don't let it go, especially if it's God.
Yeah. Don't let it go. Don't let it go. Yep. I thought about that day a couple weeks ago when after I'd first reach out to you, I was thinking back over our time together. And I remember that um, you were willing to get out of your comfort zone and try that. Uh, and we've had another client here who, was not an amputee, but, was born without a hand. Um, and this guy, he could he could play pickleball with the best of them. He could play kickball with the best of them. He got out there and he started a fire faster than I can some days. And it just anytime I see something like that, it just reminds me, quit making excuses. Give it 100%.
Yep. Yep.
Inspirational, inspirational. All right, we're getting close to the end here. Um, Wrap us up with what's the hard truth that people need to hear, in your opinion? What do you think people need to hear about recovery?
I, I want to go back to what we've already said a few times is like, you're the problem. Like, so I thought my trauma, so I had childhood trauma as well from ear surgeries. And when I went to trauma therapy through all this process of my recoveries, I came to realize that it wasn't my car accident or it wasn't my leg amputation or my brother's overdose death that were my problem. It was really this childhood trauma. And I had ear surgeries as a kid. I have a hearing aid. I have a hearing aid. And because I had prosthetic bones put in my ear, I had to fly out of state as a child and have an eardrum transplant. And so from early childhood, I felt broken and defective and insecure and I'm just unfixable. I just felt different. And so then when I had my leg amputated, then I really felt different. And I really went off the rails with the drug and alcohol abuse.
Mhm.
But come to find out is like none of those things were my problem. I was the problem. And the hard truth wasn't my divorce and it wasn't my brother's death or my leg amputation. It was me. It was me. And the hard truth that I would tell people is you can't keep blaming your parent. If you're in your mid 20s or, 20s or 30s, like you can't keep blaming your parents. Yeah, they probably did the best they could with what they had, but like at some point you got to take responsibility for yourself. So that would be probably the hard truth I would leave the audience with here is you're the problem, but here's the great part is you're also the solution. Is
Yeah.
you're the problem, but you can also be the catalyst for the solution if you let God in. That's the trick.
Yeah. Yeah. It's all a choice. Uh, it's all a choice. I mean, the the people who, are kidnapped or trafficked and forced into this type of lifestyle or forced to drink or do drugs. I know that happens. But the majority of us, it starts with a choice. We choose to drink to suppress feelings or find happiness or something like that. And uh,
Mhm.
recovery starts with a choice too. Uh, you can choose to change the direction you're going, or you can choose to lay in the mud pit.
Yep. Yep.
So, well, thanks for hopping on today, John. It was amazing getting to catch up with you and talk to you after all these years. I'm gonna
Yeah.
do better. I'm gonna try to do better about keeping up with you and staying in touch. We're just busy down here grinding it out. But would love to get you down here
Saving
when you're in
souls, man.
there.
You're saving souls down there, so keep it up.
Yeah. You can check us out, everybody watching, www.resolutionshealthcare.com, Hidden Oaks Treatment Center on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok. John, do you want to throw them a couple of your socials?
Yeah, so I do motivational speaking on, mental health, addiction, becoming adversity, silence, hidden dangers of being silent, and reaching out for help and connection. Those are things that topics that I talk on. So if you're looking for a motivational speaker, let me know. Or if you know somebody that has a church or a group or a business or corporation that needs a speaker, definitely send them my way. You can find me John Mabry on all the socials, JohnMabry. Instagram is probably popping the most right now. John Mabry Connects. John Mabry Connects on Instagram, or I'm on TikTok and LinkedIn and Facebook and all that as well. So,
Cool. Well, I'll drop a couple of those links in the comments so they can find you. And as to
wonderful.
everybody else, we'll see y'all on the next one.
All right. God bless everybody.